right, so are you ready to really get into some everyday English? You know, you sent over this conversational English podcast episode, and wow, it's full of like the phrases we use all the time without even realizing it.
Good.
And so I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting, right? We're going beyond the simple dictionary definition. We're kind of digging into like why these words work the way they do.
It is interesting. I mean, you think about it, they're just like normal words that we use, but they can actually reveal quite a bit about how we kind of think and how we communicate and even how we try to like persuade each other.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into the first word that they kind of tackle in this podcast, and that's the word logical.
Right.
So you might think, oh, okay, logical, pretty basic, something that makes sense, you know?
Right.
But the podcast goes a little deeper and shows how logical is it's about more than just, solving a math problem or something like that. It's about clear thinking. It's about kind of thinking ahead.
Yeah. And like even it can be used to describe someone, you could say someone's a very logical person.
Right. It's part of their personality.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And what I think is fascinating about this is that logical can have kind of different meanings or like different shades of meaning depending on the context. So like think about the difference between saying something like, it's logical to wear a coat when it's cold outside.
Right.
Versus like, his argument was logical and well-reasoned. You see how it's kind of like the first one is just basic common sense.
Right.
And the second one is more like, okay, you've really thought this through.
Right. It implies more critical thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in the podcast, they have this example about studying. And one of the speakers says, it's logical to start with the hardest subject.
Right. Yeah. Get it out of the way.
Exactly. Like, just get it out of the way,
Do the hard thing first, and then the rest is easier.
Right. But then it also got me thinking, like, logical in that sentence is used to sort of like suggest a strategy, a way to approach something.
Yes, exactly.
And the word logical in that sentence, I think, appeals to this sense of reason and order.
Absolutely. Like, this is the best way to do it. This is the most sensible way to do it.
Most efficient way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, and it's persuasive.
Right.
Because it's like, as humans, we want things to make sense.
Right. We want things to be in order.
Exactly.
We want to, do things efficiently.
Yes.
That makes sense. So there's another example that they give in the podcast, and this one is talking about, it's logical to bring an umbrella if it's going to rain.
Right.
And again, kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But I think it shows how logical is often tied to this idea of anticipating something.
Absolutely.
Based on evidence that you have. So you see, like, the weather forecast, and you're like, okay, it's going to rain. So logically, you bring an umbrella, and it's like you're thinking ahead.
It's like, yeah, you're like almost like a mini like decision-making framework. You're thinking about, okay, what's the evidence? What could potentially happen? And what makes the most sense given this information?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And then the podcast goes on and kind of like throws us a little curveball and starts talking about whether or not it's always best to be purely logical.
Right.
What about intuition, gut feelings, things like that? Is there room for that?
Yeah, emotions,
In a world that really values logic.
It's true. Yeah.
I like that they brought that up because I think it's a really interesting question to ask.
Absolutely. And I think it poses a good question to the listener.
Right.
Like, for you listening right now, do you consider yourself more of a logical person, or do you go with your gut a little bit more?
Right, yeah. Good question. Okay, now let's move on to a word that I think can be a little bit sneaky, and that is no longer.
Okay.
So it seems simple enough, but I think the podcast does a good job of pointing out that this word no longer pops up everywhere.
Right, yeah.
And can be a little bit tricky if you're not paying close attention.
Absolutely.
So I think what's interesting about no longer is that it really signifies like a change, a shift from a previous state.
Yeah, like things were this way, but they're not that way anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're pointing out that there's been a change.
Right, like things were true, but now they're not true.
Exactly.
And it's a great way to really emphasize that transition.
Yes, absolutely.
So one of the examples they give is she no longer lives in New York.
Okay.
So it's not just that she doesn't live there now, it's that she used to live there.
Right. And things have changed.
And now it's different, and it paints this little picture of change.
Yeah, a before and after.
Right, like a before and after, yeah.
And they even give us a little quick grammar tip.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
They say that no longer usually comes before the main verb in the sentence.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
It's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it can be tricky.
Yeah, it can trip you up.
And they have this, they have another example, which I think is super relatable, which is about this kid who all of a sudden decides they no longer like broccoli.
Yeah. Oh, I've been there.
And I think we've all been there with something.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know, like our tastes change,
Absolutely.
our preferences evolve.
That's the great thing about life, I think.
It's true. You know, it's like we're constantly changing.
Yeah.
And I think this example really highlights that
It does, yeah.
that change is a natural part of life. And
Yeah.
that language is this really powerful tool to reflect those changes.
It is, yeah.
And so it's not just about, you know, broccoli.
Well.
It's about, it could be music.
It could be, yeah.
You know, it could be movies,
Absolutely.
hobbies, friendships, anything.
You name it.
I remember, like, when I was a kid, I thought platform shoes were the coolest.
Oh, yeah.
No longer.
Well, you never know. They might come back in style, you know?
It's true. Everything comes back eventually.
That's true.
But, you know, it's funny how those things happen.
It is. It is.
So, yeah, our tastes change, our preferences evolve.
And you know what? Even the podcast hosts in this episode, they talk about how their own tastes have changed.
Oh, that's interesting over time.
Yeah, that they've changed their mind about certain things.
Exactly. So even the language experts are learning and adapting.
That's true. We should never stop learning.
Never stop learning.
Right. It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
I like that.
So what about you, listener? I mean, what are some things that you no longer enjoy or believe in?
Right. That's a good question.
In the same way that you may be used to.
What has changed for you?
Right.
Okay, so are you ready for a word that just sounds as relaxing as what it means?
Okay. I'm intrigued.
I'm talking about the word soothe.
Soothe. Just, I don't know, just hearing that word
Yeah.
makes me just want to, like, take a deep breath and just, like, chill out.
Yeah, it is a very, like, peaceful word.
Right.
It's very calming.
And the podcast defines it as to calm, relax, ease, worry, or pain.
Yeah.
And they give these, like, really great examples.
I love their examples.
Like music soothing a baby or a warm bath soothing sore muscles.
Yeah, it's like you're directing that calm energy
It's targeted.
towards a specific thing that needs it.
Yes, it's very specific. I like that.
Yeah.
And that's actually a point that they highlight, that you soothe something, like, specific.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just like this general feeling of, you know, it's directed at something.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking about this too. It's like the etymology of the word soothe.
Oh, okay.
It's actually related to words like peace and tranquility.
Oh, wow.
So it suggests like a deeper connection to a state of like harmony
That's very interesting.
and well-being.
I like
Right. And so it's like, it's almost like soothe is about restoring this balance.
Yeah, bringing things back to a state of ease. Like if you were out of balance and something's soothing you,
Yeah.
it's bringing you back.
Yeah. Yeah. And this can apply to, like, you know, physical sensations.
Right.
Like if your
Yeah.
muscles are sore or
Oh,
something.
exactly.
Emotional states.
For sure. yeah.
Mental anxieties, you know.
If you're feeling stressed.
Right. And in one of their examples, they say, the speaker says, I had such a stressful day at work. I need something to soothe my nerves.
Right.
And it's like that, you know, it's like, I need something to just bring me back down.
Yeah, to calm down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they suggest drinking herbal tea,
Yeah. Chamomile, that kind of thing.
which is often associated with, you know, relaxation, stress relief.
Absolutely.
It's interesting how, you know, certain activities or rituals can become almost synonymous with soothing.
That's true.
You know, like listening to calming music,
Yeah, or taking a hot bath.
taking a bath.
Or even like spending time in nature.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
For sure.
So it makes me wonder, what soothes you, listener?
Ooh, that's a good question.
You know, what are those like go-to activities or sensory experiences that really help you unwind
Yeah.
and kind of find that sense of calm?
Amidst the chaos of life.
Yeah, amongst all the chaos.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a confession.
Okay, I'm ready.
I am a champion window shopper.
Oh, really?
It's like, I don't know, it's like a sport for me.
That's
I can spend hours browsing and imagining and dreaming without ever buying a thing.
There is something very, like, alluring about window shopping.
I think so.
I mean, I'm not surprised you're a champion.
The podcast defines it as looking without buying.
Right.
But I think it's so much more than that.
It is.
For me, it's like this blend of like visual stimulation, imagination,
Yeah.
and maybe even a little bit of like strategic planning. Like, oh, I'm not going to buy that designer bag today, but maybe someday.
Yeah, you're filing it away.
It's like it's in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's funny, the podcast actually points out that key thing, that it's about the enjoyment. It's not about the actual purchase.
It's not about, yeah.
So it's almost like visual research,
Ooh, I like that.
You're getting inspiration. You're gathering ideas.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it. And then they also touch on the social aspect of window shopping.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I really appreciate because, I mean, it can be so much fun to go window shopping with friends.
It can be, yeah.
You're sharing opinions.
Yeah, you're like, oh, what do you think about this? And, ooh, I love that.
Right, bouncing ideas off each other. And then maybe, you're subtly hinting at what you'd like as a gift.
That's right, exactly.
So it's like, it's more than just looking. It's like this whole experience.
It is.
that you're sharing.
And they give a good example, too. Like, they say, Sarah went to the mall for some window shopping on Saturday.
Right.
And it's just this, like, very simple sentence, but it does capture that, like, leisurely exploratory.
Yeah. It's not about the purchase. It's just about...
It's the vibe.
Yeah, the vibe, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not about rushing to buy something. It's about, like, savoring the experience, indulging in just, like, the visual feast, maybe even picking up some styling tips along the way.
That's right.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, window shopping can be more satisfying than actually buying something.
Really?
Because then you don't have any buyer's remorse. You don't have any clutter to deal with.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about where you're going to put it.
Right, exactly. So it's like, it's all of the pleasure with none of the guilt.
That's a good point.
Right. So it makes me think about, like, the psychology of window shopping.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? Is it about delayed gratification?
Right.
Is it like, escaping from reality a little bit?
Or just a way to kind of stay on top of the trends.
Right. And stay current.
Without actually spending any money.
Without breaking the bank.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So what do you think, listener?
Yeah, what's the appeal for you?
What's the appeal of window shopping for you? All right, buckle up.
Okay.
This next phrase is like a power move.
Ooh. Okay, hit me with it.
The ball is in your court.
The ball is in your court.
It's like, bam, your turn to decide.
I like it already.
I don't know, it's just so satisfying to use because it's like you're politely but firmly shifting responsibility to someone else.
Felt that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all about control and momentum, right? Like,
yes.
The podcast defines it as it's your turn to decide or to act, but it implies a lot more.
It does. It implies, like, I've done my part.
Exactly.
Now it's up to you.
What are you going to do?
Right. And they give these great examples, like submitting a proposal or making an offer on a house.
Yeah, like you've made the first move.
You've done your part, and now you're just waiting for that response.
Exactly.
So it's like there's this, like, moment of suspense, right?
It is. You're waiting to see what the other person's going to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so by saying the ball is in your court, you're not just conveying information.
No, you're also, like, applying a little pressure.
Yeah, it's like, come on, let's go.
You're saying, I've done my part.
Pick it up.
Now it's your move.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have this dialogue example where someone finishes a work report,
Right.
and they say, I've finished the report, the ball's in your court now.
Yeah.
And it's just so direct.
It's so clear.
It's so clear.
But not in an aggressive way.
Right. It's not aggressive.
You're not blaming anybody.
No, you're just stating a fact.
You're just stating, here's the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really nice blend of assertiveness
Yeah.
and politeness.
Yes.
You're stating your position, but you're also respecting the other person, that they need to make their own decision.
Right. You have the power now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because it doesn't have to be a formal situation. You can use it casually, too.
Absolutely.
Like if you're planning a weekend trip with friends.
Right.
And you're like, all right, I've thrown out some ideas. The ball is in your court now.
What do you guys think?
What do you guys think?
Yeah. Exactly.
It can be used in any situation, really.
Yeah, it's very versatile.
Where you're just trying to, like, move the conversation forward, or just,
Or inject a little urgency,
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys, let's make a decision here.
Yeah, I bet you've heard this a million times.
Oh, yeah.
But, now you can actually use it.
Now you can use it with confidence.
With confidence.
Knowing all the subtle nuances.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, listener, have you ever used this phrase?
Yeah, I'm curious.
The ball is in your court.
Have you been on the receiving end of it?
Or maybe you've been on the receiving end of it.
Yeah.
What was that like? How did it make you feel?
Hmm.
All right, we've covered some good ground here,
We have.
but there's still more to uncover
Oh, yeah.
with this English podcast deep dive.
A lot more to discover.
We're just getting started.
Just getting warmed up, ready to dive back into this treasure chest of everyday English.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I'm already starting to feel more confident about using some of these words
Oh, that's great. That's the whole point.
that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of language learning, right?
Wow.
The more you kind of explore and play around with it, the more comfortable you become.
That's very true.
And speaking of feeling confident and empowered, this next word is all about that irresistible quality that draws people in. I'm talking about charming.
Oh, I love that word, charming.
The good one, right?
It just sounds so elegant and, well, charming.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what makes charming different from other kind of more basic positive words like nice or friendly?
That's a great question. And the podcast actually defines it as attractive or pleasing in a way that makes people like you.
Yeah.
But I think charming goes beyond just likability,
Right.
It suggests almost like a magnetism, almost like it's captivating and leaves a lasting impression.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's like that special something that makes you, want to be around someone or makes you want to visit a place again and again.
Yeah.
And in the podcast, they give this example of, they describe this old village with charming cottages and gardens.
Oh, yeah. I love that example.
It's this image of idyllic beauty and tranquility.
Yeah, it's quaint,
It's very quaint, very peaceful.
Yeah.
I like that.
And it's interesting because charming can be used for both people and places.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
So you can have a charming person or you can have a charming town.
Right.
And in both cases, it evokes that same feeling, that sense of warmth and authenticity.
Right. Yeah.
And almost like a little bit of nostalgia too, like you're stepping back in time to something
Right. Yeah.
that's a little simpler.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
And then they use it to describe a person's personality. They say, Sarah has a charming personality that makes everyone want to be her friend.
Right. So it's almost like this effortless charisma, right?
Right. She just has this quality that people just want to be around her.
Yeah, she puts people at ease.
Right.
And
yeah.
and it makes them, gravitate towards her.
And it makes me think too, earlier we were talking about the word cool.
Oh, yeah, we were.
And how that has a very modern laid back vibe.
Right.
But charming seems to occupy a totally different space.
It does, yeah. It's more traditional and refined.
Yes.
And maybe even a little bit old-fashioned in a good way,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. It's almost cool is your effortlessly stylish friend who knows all the cool spots.
Yeah.
And charming is your witty friend.
Oh, yeah.
Who tells the best stories.
The storyteller.
And makes you feel like you've known them forever.
Yeah, I love that.
So it's they both evoke positive feelings, but they're very different kind of spaces, I guess, that they occupy.
They do. Yeah, it's fascinating how two words that seem kind of similar on the surface can have such
Very different vibes.
Yeah, exactly. It's really cool.
And it makes me wonder, what do you find charming in a person or a place?
Yeah. Think about that, listener.
What are those qualities that really draw you in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, shifting gears now to a word that is super useful when you want to sound extra smart.
Oh, okay. I'm always up for that.
Accordingly.
Accordingly, yes.
So accordingly is all about cause and effect,
It is, yeah.
It's like saying, because of this, I did that.
Yeah.
And the podcast defines it as in a way that is suitable or right for the situation.
Right.
Which sounds a little formal.
Yeah, it's a little bit stiff.
But then they give us some really clear examples
They do.
that make it a lot easier to understand.
Yeah, they give the example of someone who studied hard and then accordingly passed their exam with high marks.
Right.
So you see how it's like you did this, and then because of that, you did that.
Right. So it highlights this direct link
Absolutely.
between the
Makes
acts
cause and effect.
and the consequence.
It's like a very clear line.
Yeah, this happened because of this.
Yeah.
And it can also be used to show that you're adapting to a situation.
Right.
Based on new information.
Yeah, you're adjusting your behavior
Right.
based on the circumstances, and they have that example, remember, about checking the weather forecast.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And they say he saw that it was going to rain, and accordingly, he took an umbrella.
Right, so he's paying attention to the information.
And making a decision accordingly.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And they mentioned too that it tends to be used more in like formal contexts.
It does, yeah. You'll often see it like in news reports or business writing.
Right, but you know what? Don't let that intimidate you.
No, absolutely not.
I think you can sprinkle in and accordingly here and there to really elevate your everyday conversations.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like adding a touch of like sophistication to your language, you know?
Yes, it's like, I don't know, it's like, if you think about fashion, it's like, wearing a blazer with your jeans.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
It's
Yeah.
like you're adding that extra touch, but you're not, overdoing it.
That little touch of elegance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now for a word that is just pure fun, twirl.
Could do twirl.
It just makes me think of, like, dancers, flowing skirts, that feeling of just like carefree joy.
It's a very like light and energetic word.
Right. It's like the word itself is spinning.
Yeah, it is.
So the podcast defines it as to turn someone or something around quickly, usually in a circle.
Right.
But it's more than that. It's about like the movement, the grace, the playfulness.
Yeah, absolutely. And they give that great example. Like, remember the little girl twirling around in her favorite dress?
Oh, yeah.
You can just picture it. She's just like, in her own world, just having fun.
Yeah, and the dress is swirling around her.
It's like a little whirlwind of joy.
Right, exactly.
And then they contrast that with a dancer twirling her partner on the dance floor.
Oh, yeah, I like
So it could be, very, very elegant and romantic.
Right, so twirl can capture like this childlike wonder.
Yes.
But also like this sophisticated artistry.
It can really run the gamut. Yeah.
And don't forget about like its figurative use.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You could say, my head is twirling with all these new ideas.
Right, you're overwhelmed, but in a good way.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like, there's so much going on.
Yeah, you're excited.
Right, but it's a good overwhelmed.
It's a good overwhelm.
Right, yeah.
And the podcast mentions that it's generally like a more informal word.
Right.
More for casual conversation.
Right.
Maybe like, creative writing.
Right, so maybe not the best choice for your next business presentation.
Maybe not.
But definitely a word to embrace when you're feeling playful.
Absolutely.
Okay, ready for a phrase that has become like a staple of modern communication? Hit up.
Hit up.
Yeah, it's so casual, so efficient.
It's very like to the point,
Right, it's like, it's the cool kids' way of saying like, let's connect.
Yeah, or let's go to.
Or let's go to, right? So the podcast defines it as to contact someone, usually by phone or message.
Right.
Or to visit a place like a store or restaurant.
Yeah.
But I think it's more than just a synonym for like contact or visit,
It has like a sense of like energy and immediacy to it.
Yes, it's very...
Like you're suggesting something spontaneous.
Yes.
Like, it's not, would you like to go to dinner sometime?
Yeah.
It's like, let's hit up that new taco place tonight.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and they give the example, I'll hit you up later to make plans for the weekend.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, it's casual, you're throwing it out there, but you're not like,
You're not being too demanding.
Yeah, exactly.
And they also have an example of someone saying they decided to hit up their favorite coffee shop after work.
Yeah, that after work coffee.
Right.
Yeah, it's that impulse.
Yeah.
Let's just go.
Right. It's very, very now.
Yeah, it is. It's of the moment.
Yeah.
And as with many, informal expressions,
Right.
it's important to keep in mind your audience and the context.
Right.
So probably wouldn't use hit up in a job interview. Probably not.
Or a formal email to your boss.
Right, exactly. But,
Yeah.
with friends and family, it's perfect. It's perfect. It just adds that little bit of like informality and playfulness.
It does. Yeah. And it's interesting how certain phrases become like almost like shorthand for like a generation or a social group.
Right.
It's like it reflects like their shared experiences,
Their shared culture.
And hit up definitely feels like a product of our like fast-paced digital age.
It does. Yeah.
Short, it's snappy.
It's like a text message.
Gets the message across quickly. Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So what about you, listener?
Yeah, I'm curious.
What are some of your favorite informal expressions?
The things that you use every day.
The ones that make you feel like you're part of like a certain group.
Your tribe.
Yeah, your tribe.
Yeah.
I like that. And you know what? Thinking about how language evolves and adapts like this can really give you like a whole new appreciation for, like, how rich and diverse everyday English really is.
It can, yeah. Okay, ready for a phrase that's all about resilience
Okay.
and encouragement.
I like it already.
One that's been around forever, but I think still really packs a punch. Hang in there.
Hang in there, yeah.
It's like a verbal hug, you know?
It is, yeah.
It's that little, like, reminder to keep going.
Yeah, don't give up.
Even when things get rough.
Keep pushing, keep fighting.
Right.
Yeah.
And the podcast describes it as a way to, like, encourage someone to persevere,
Right.
to not give up hope. And it's just so interesting how, like, 3 simple words
Yeah.
convey such a powerful message
That's true.
of support, you know?
And it's not just like, offering the words,
Uh-huh.
but it's acknowledging that the other person is struggling.
Yes, exactly.
Like you're saying, I see you, I hear you,
I get it.
and I believe in you.
Right, exactly. You've got this.
Yeah.
And they have this example of someone who's struggling in school.
Right.
And they're told, I know you're having a hard time, but hang in there, it'll get better.
Right. You're acknowledging the difficulty, but also offering that,
That little glimmer of hope.
yeah, exactly, that light at the end of the tunnel.
And they also have this example about someone learning to ride a bike,
Oh.
being told to hang in there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can apply it to anything,
You can. It's very versatile.
big or small.
We all face those challenges
Right. Yeah.
in life.
And as the podcast points out, it's informal.
It is, yeah.
You know, best used with people you know well,
Friends and family,
Right.
people you're close to.
because it has that warmth.
Yeah, that
The
familiarity.
familiarity, yeah.
And they even have a little dialogue, remember, where someone's like super stressed about exams
Oh, yeah.
and their friend's like, hang in there, you're almost done.
Right.
So it's really nice.
It's that reminder
Yeah,
that
it's,
things are going to get better.
Yeah.
That these tough times, they're not forever.
They're temporary.
They're temporary.
Yeah, and it makes me think about, the importance of community and support.
Right.
Like sometimes all we need is someone to tell us hang in there.
Yeah, to tell us we're not alone.
Right, exactly.
So, listener,
Yeah.
who are the people in your life who offer that kind of support?
Yeah, who are your cheerleaders?
Yeah, who are your cheerleaders?
And how can you be that person for someone else?
That's a good question.
It is, yeah.
That's a really good question.
It makes you think.
And I think, these are the kind of questions that make this Dup Dive
Yeah.
so much more than just a vocabulary lesson.
It is.
It's really about connecting with language on a deeper level
Absolutely.
and exploring how it shapes our thoughts,
Our relationship.
our relationships,
Our experiences.
and our experiences. And as we go into this final part of the episode,
Yeah.
we're going to uncover even more phrases and expressions
We
that'll
actually-
help you use everyday English with more confidence and nuance.
That's right.
Okay, we're back, ready for the final part of our English podcast deep dive.
I'm ready, are you?
I am. Let's do it.
Right.
Okay, so imagine you're describing something that just, like, totally blows you away, something incredible.
Something exceptional.
Yes. What's the first word that pops into your head?
Well, I mean, I might say incredible or, amazing, but I feel like you're leading me to a different word.
I am. The word is awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
And I think it's interesting because, it's such a simple word,
It is.
but it's
Yeah.
become this, like, universal expression of enthusiasm.
It has. And the podcast even points out that it's kind of gone beyond its original meaning.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like awesome used to mean something that inspired awe.
Right, like something that filled you with a sense of wonder.
Exactly. But now it's almost like a catch-all for
Well,
anything that's positive,
Right, and the podcast uses it in so many different ways.
Yeah, they do.
Like, someone says, this new coffee shop has an awesome atmosphere.
Right. Or like, my friend just got a new car. It's awesome.
Right, it's like, I really, really like this.
Yeah, it's almost become like shorthand for that.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder, like, because it's used so much, does it lose a little bit of its impact?
That's a good question. Yeah, like if everything is awesome, then is anything really awesome?
Right, exactly. And I think it's a good reminder to maybe be more specific with our language sometimes.
Right.
To choose words that really, truly, like, capture what we're trying to describe.
Yeah, instead of just saying like, oh, that concert was awesome,
Yeah.
maybe you could say the energy at that concert was, electric.
Yes.
Or the band's performance was breathtaking.
I like that.
It adds a little bit more
nuance.
Yeah, more nuance, and it makes it more like vivid.
Right. Yeah, it paints more of a picture.
Exactly.
Okay, so how about this? This phrase I feel like is just like so ingrained in our everyday conversations. You don't even think about it.
Okay, yeah. What is it?
See you later.
See you later.
It seems so straightforward, just a casual goodbye.
Right, yeah.
But the podcast makes this really interesting point that it can actually convey more than just a bye.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Right.
How so?
Because it can also express like a sense of anticipation
Okay.
for a future encounter.
Right, like you're looking forward to seeing them again.
Yeah, it's not just like goodbye forever.
All right.
It's see you later,
Yeah, exactly.
And it just adds this layer of like warmth and connection.
And that you value the relationship.
Yes, and that you're actually looking forward to seeing this person again.
Yeah.
And they give an example of two friends making plans to hang out the next day.
Okay.
And one of them says like, see you later.
Right, yeah.
So it's not just like a farewell.
It's more like a see you tomorrow.
It's a confirmation. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I do too.
And it's almost like, a verbal handshake.
Ooh, I like that.
It's sealing the deal.
That's a good way to put it.
On their plans,
Yeah, and it makes me think too, like it's funny how these little phrases can have so much meaning behind them.
Right.
Just three simple words
See you later.
can really convey, a whole feeling.
It's the context, I think.
It is, yeah. It's the context. It's the relationship between the speakers, yeah.
Okay, so here's a phrase it's all about, like empowering someone to pursue their dreams, to go after what they want. Go for it.
Go for it. Oh, I love that one.
It's so simple.
It is, but it's so powerful.
Yeah, it's like that little push of motivation that someone needs,
Right.
to give them the confidence to take that leap of faith.
And the podcast describes it as like giving someone that confidence.
Yeah.
To take a risk.
Yeah, to step outside their comfort zone.
It can really be applied to so many situations.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's like they give the example of, someone considering a career change.
Right.
Or applying for a new job that seems really challenging.
Right.
And their friend says, go for it. You got this.
Yeah, you're showing that you believe in them.
Yes, exactly.
You support them.
And it's not just for like these big life decisions.
No, it could be something small, like...
Right, like, oh, I'm thinking about taking up a new pottery class.
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it.
Wait, what do you have to lose?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or I'm thinking about, asking this person out on a date.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really about embracing those opportunities.
Yeah.
And not letting fear hold you back.
Absolutely. Take the risk.
Right, and they even have this dialogue example where someone is hesitant to enter a talent show.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
And their friend says, go for it.
Right, because they're probably nervous,
Yeah.
And they're scared to put themselves out there.
Yeah. But you're saying, you know what? You have the talent. I believe in you.
Share it with the world.
Let the world see it.
And it makes me think, like, words are so powerful.
They are.
Sometimes all it takes is that little bit of encouragement,
A little nudge
from someone that we trust, to really give us the confidence to go after what we want.
Absolutely.
So, listener,
yeah,
what are some dreams or goals that you've been putting off?
Yeah, think about it.
Maybe it's time to just take a deep breath and say, go for it.
Yeah, what are you waiting for?
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We really have.
From the logic of, everyday decisions to the charm of a bygone era.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot.
From the power of soothing rituals to the thrill of chasing your dreams.
I'm exhausted.
Me too, but it's a good exhaustion.
It is.
So we've explored these nuances of words like logical, no longer, soothe.
Window shopping.
The
ball is in your court.
The ball is in your court.
Terming accordingly.
Twirl. Hit up.
Hang in there.
Awesome.
See you later.
Go for it. And go for it.
Wow.
Each one of these words, each one of these phrases offering a glimpse into the amazing, fascinating world of everyday English.
It is. It is.
And I think that's why this deep dive has been so interesting, you know? It's like,
Right.
these are the words we use all the time.
All the go.
But now we have this new understanding.
Yeah, you see them in a new light.
Yeah, we've kind of like unlocked their secrets.
I like that.
So now it's your turn, listener.
Yeah, what are you going to do with all this new knowledge?
Which one of these words or phrases really resonated with you?
Yeah, what are you going to try out in your next conversation?
I mean, we've talked about how language is a living thing.
It is.
It's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
So the more you explore it, the more you play around with it,
the more comfortable you'll become.
the more confident you'll become,
Yeah.
and the more expressive you'll become.
Absolutely.
So go out there and embrace the power of everyday English.
I love it.